Politicians love rules. They love explaining them. They love enforcing them. And they really love telling other people how to live. Which is why it's always interesting to see what happens when the person holding the rulebook accidentally becomes a footnote in it. Today we're looking at moments when politicians were caught doing the exact thing they said was destroying society. Not because it's shocking, but because at this point, it's almost comforting in its consistency. József Szájer wasn't just another conservative politician. He was a founding member of Hungary's ruling Fidesz party, the same party that rewrote the constitution to define marriage as strictly between a man and a woman, and pushed aggressively anti-LGBT laws. Very serious, very traditional, very moral. In 2020, during COVID lockdowns, Belgian police broke up an illegal party in Brussels. It turned out to be a 25-person gay orgy. One of those attendees attempted to escape through a window, shimmying down a drainpipe. That man was József Szájer. He was later found with drugs in his backpack, resigned shortly after, and issued a statement asking for forgiveness. Which is always nice, especially when you already finished legislating against the people you're apologizing to. Now here's the part that makes this less of a scandal and more of a pattern. Szájer wasn't the only one who didn't want to answer questions. Two other men also invoked diplomatic immunity. Their names remained secret, presumably for their safety. From irony, their names were never released, only initials. At least one was later confirmed to be an Estonian diplomat. This means that three politically connected individuals avoided immediate legal consequences, while ordinary citizens during the same lockdown faced fines and arrests. The problem was never gay behavior. The problem was who was allowed to get away with it. Anonymous, immune, and allergic to accountability. A truly elite party. And if this were a one-off, it might have been funny, but once you notice a pattern, anti-gay politicians secretly being gay, the law and order politician breaking the law, the family orders politician avoiding their own family, you start to notice that this isn't hypocrisy by accident. Larry Craig was a Republican U.S. Senator. He spent years voting against gay rights, opposing same-sex marriage, and presenting himself as a defender of public decency. In 2007, he was arrested in a Minneapolis airport bathroom for soliciting sex from another man, which is already impressive because if you're worried about public morality, an airport bathroom is a bold place to test it. When questioned, Craig insisted that there had been a misunderstanding. He wasn't soliciting anyone. He just stands wide. This was his actual defense, not metaphorically wide, physically wide. Apparently, traditional values require more legroom. He later pled guilty, then tried to withdraw the plea, then resigned, which is a lot of steps from a man who claims nothing ever happened. It's very important to note that he claims that he is not gay. Just want to make it very clear that he is not gay. Pled guilty for soliciting sex from a man, not gay. The male officer in the men's room that saw him do this arrested him for soliciting sex in a room specified for men, not gay. Once again, this issue was not about what he believed. It was about who the beliefs were for. And if you think this is just about sexuality, don't worry. Hypocrisy wasn't specialized. Eliot Spitzer made his career as a law and order crusader. As New York's attorney general and later governor, he aggressively prosecuted prostitution rings. He took a very hard line. So hard, in fact, that when federal investigators uncovered a high-end prostitution operation, they found Spitzer listed as a frequent client. He was known to them as client number 9, which is not a nickname you earn on accident. The man who declared war on prostitution turned out to be one of its most reliable customers. He resigned shortly after because apparently enforcing the law and believing in the law are two entirely separate skill sets. After resigning in disgrace, Eliot Spitzer eventually decided that enough time had passed, which is a feeling a person can simply have. He announced a return to politics, explaining that he had reflected, learned, and grown, and therefore was once again prepared to hold power over other people. This was presented not as a bold move, but as a reasonable next step, because the past was the past, except for the part that was widely remembered. Voters were invited to consider not what had happened, but the fact that it had happened a while ago, which is famously how accountability works. In this way, Spitzer demonstrated that while mistakes may end a political career, we can also, with sufficient confidence, briefly restart one. But in his case, it didn't work. Eliot Spitzer would never go on to hold a position of power again. Once again, the law was very clear. It's not for him. Mark Foley was a Republican congressman who spoke often about protecting children from moral corruption. Publicly, he warned about predators. Privately, he was sending sexually explicit messages to teenage congressional interns. The messages were explicit, the recipients were underage, and the warnings were coming from the same person. Foley resigned in 2006. Crazy part that no one seems to want to talk about is that other congressmen knew about his behavior as early as 2000. The concerns were raised about Mark Foley. They were noted, reviewed, and carefully not acted upon because nothing was proven and no one wanted to know too much. This continued until it became impossible to continue to not know, at which point concern increased dramatically and action became immediate. Foley resigned quickly, citing personal struggles, while other colleagues expressed shock, sadness, and shared belief that no one could have seen this coming, despite having at various points been told. In this way, the system demonstrated its commitment to protecting children, primarily from discussing when it had first heard something and why that had not seemed like the right time to do anything. This is one of those cases where facts don't need commentary, and politicians say, think about the children. Maybe it's best if they don't. John Ensign was a U.S. senator known for championing family values, marriage, commitment, integrity. He also had an affair with his best friend's wife. John Ensign's parents gave money to the husband involved in the affair, which they insisted was not hush money, just ordinary support, completely unrelated to the controversy. Later, the husband was offered a consulting firm job lobbying in government affairs work, which was also described as routine, ordinary assistance, unrelated to the earlier payments, and unrelated to any wrongdoing. Money, guidance, and career help, all carefully explained away as proper, routine, and entirely not hush money, which is a fascinating interpretation of personal responsibility. Family values, but freelance. It wasn't adultery. It was networking. This isn't about sex or drugs or even scandals. It's about a pattern where the people most eager to control other people's behaviors seem the least interested in following their own rules. Which is why the real lesson here isn't that politicians are bad. It's that the rules are very serious. You just need to check who they're actually for. This has been Salty Goods Productions, and I'll see you in the next one.